Okay, let's dive in. You know, that feeling when there's a book everyone's talking about.
Oh, yeah, like it's just everywhere.
Totally. On social media, friends are mentioning it,
Yeah.
and you kind of feel like, okay, I need to get the gist fast, right?
Mm.
Without, like, clearing your whole schedule for days to actually read it.
Exactly, a shortcut to understanding the core of it.
So that's what we're doing today. This is our deep dive.
Mm.
We're taking a really detailed summary of a super popular book.
And pulling out the absolute essentials, the key takeaways, the emotional beats, the stuff you really need to know.
Yeah, to get you right to the heart of what makes it so significant, so talked about.
Right. So our goal here is to walk you through the story, introduce the main players, and touch on those big themes that have clearly hit a nerve with so many readers.
And the book today, well, it's one that's been pretty much impossible to ignore. It ends with us.
That's the one. And the summary we're working from describes it as poignant and emotionally charged, a contemporary romance novel.
Poignant and emotionally charged. Okay, so that tells you right off the bat, this probably isn't just a light, fluffy read.
Definitely not. It signals there's some real weight there, something designed to, make you feel things.
Okay, so there's depth. Where does the story kick off? Who's at the center of this emotional journey?
It all revolves around the main character, Lily Bloom.
Lily Bloom, okay.
Yeah. And the summary highlights she's a young woman who has, genuinely worked hard, really put in the effort.
Uh-huh.
And her ambition wasn't just general, career success. It was specifically about building a life that is fundamentally different from her upbringing, which the summary mentions was difficult, troubled.
Okay. So that backstory is key. She's actively trying to move away from something negative in her past.
Exactly. Forging a new path. And the summary notes a big move is part of that.
Right. She moves to Boston.
Yep. Moving to Boston, setting up shop there, putting some distance, maybe literal and figurative, between her and her past.
And starting fresh often means meeting new people.
Which leads us straight to Ryle Kincaid.
Ryle Kincaid. Okay.
He comes into her life there in Boston. The summary calls him charming, ambitious, and a neurosurgeon.
Wow, a neurosurgeon. That paints a picture, doesn't it? Smart, driven.
Successful, maybe a little intense, you might think.
Could be. And their connection at first. The summary says it seems.
Well, the word used is perfect, almost perfect.
Seems perfect. Okay, alarm bells. It always feels like a setup in a story, right?
Totally. The calm before the storm feeling.
Like you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop.
And the summary confirms, yeah, that intuition is right. It says that perfect feeling doesn't really last long.
Okay, how so? What starts to crack?
Well, first, his aversion to commitment starts to surface. That becomes clear.
Right, okay. Commitment issues. Common enough hurdle in relationships. But feels like there might be more here.
There is. And this is where it gets much heavier. The summary doesn't just stop at commitment issues. It explicitly mentions that hints of a darker side also begin to emerge in Ryle.
Ooh. Okay, darker side. That's significant.
It really is. This isn't just about, do we want the same things? It hints at something potentially harmful. This is where that emotionally charged description really starts to make sense.
Yeah, that raises the stakes dramatically.
Yeah.
So Lily's trying to build this better life, meets this guy Ryle who seems amazing, but then there are commitment issues and this troubling darker side.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. What happens next as she's dealing with this?
Well, just as her present is getting complicated, the past walks back in.
Okay. Who?
The summary introduces Atlas Corrigan.
Atlas Corrigan. And his connection to Lily is?
He was her first love from her past.
Her first love. Okay.
And his reappearance isn't just like a random encounter. It naturally stirs up a lot of old feelings, old memories for Lily, which you can imagine adds a whole new layer of complexity to what she's already navigating with Ryle.
Oh, absolutely. Bringing someone significant from your past into a difficult present. Yeah, that complicates everything. Does the summary give more context on their history? Beyond just first love?
It does, and it's really crucial context, especially considering her difficult childhood.
Okay.
The summary specifically points out that Atlas's bond with Lily actually helped her survive her tumultuous childhood.
Wow. Okay. Helped her survive. That's powerful.
It really is. It means he represents more than just, a teenage romance. He was potentially a source of comfort, support, maybe even safety, arguably, when she really needed it.
So he's tied to her resilience during that tough time. That puts him in stark contrast, not only to the past she's trying to escape, but potentially also to this darker side she's seeing in Ryle now.
Exactly. You can see how this creates a huge internal conflict for Lily.
Yeah, I can only imagine. The summary calls this her core struggle, this internal struggle.
That's the term it uses. She's caught, essentially. Caught between different versions of love, different potential futures, and having to face some really hard truths.
And what does that struggle look like specifically, according to the summary?
It breaks it down pretty clearly. It says she has to confront her past, question her present, and make decisions that will shape her future.
Confront, question, decide. Okay.
So it's hitting her from all sides, dealing with her history's impact, really looking at the reality of her current relationship with Ryle, and then trying to find the clarity, the courage maybe to choose what's actually better for her, even if it's painful.
Navigating some very messy, very complex territory.
Extremely. It's not just a simple love triangle. It's tied up with her whole sense of self, safety, and what she deserves.
Which leads us naturally into the themes, right? This complex situation must explore some big ideas. The summary listed a few.
Yes, the key themes highlighted are love, resilience, and making difficult choices. Those are sort of the big umbrellas.
Love, resilience, difficult choices. Makes sense. And did the summary single one out as being particularly central?
It did, and it used pretty strong language. It said the book dives deep into the theme of breaking cycles of abuse.
Okay, wow. Dives deep. So that darker side of Ryle and Lily's own difficult background, they aren't just plot points.
Not at all. They're central to exploring how these harmful patterns can echo through generations and, importantly, what it actually takes to stop them. To break that cycle.
Tackling breaking cycles of abuse within essentially a contemporary romance frame.
Yeah.
That gives it a really significant layer of social relevance. It pushes it beyond typical genre boundaries.
Absolutely. And it fits perfectly with that initial description, poignant and emotionally charged. It's not shying away from the hard stuff.
Yeah.
And the summary adds another piece of context that kind of explains why this theme might feel so raw and central.
Oh, right. The author's connection. It mentions the book was inspired by the author's personal experiences.
Exactly. Colleen Hoover. Knowing that the story draws from something personal, well, it lends this incredible weight and authenticity to the tough subjects, doesn't it?
It really does. It makes the summary's description of the story as heart-wrenching feel very earned, like it comes from a place of real understanding.
Yeah, it gives the story an emotional core that clearly resonates. You can see why it might hit so hard for readers.
That personal connection just deepens everything. Okay, so let's try and pull together the main threads here from the summary. We have Lily, determined to escape her past.
Right, building a new life in Boston.
Then there's Ryle, the charming surgeon who seems perfect but reveals commitment issues and that really worrying darker side.
Complicating her present.
And Atlas reappears, her first love, representing past support, maybe even survival.
Adding another layer, pulling her towards the past, perhaps.
Which leads to Lily's huge internal struggle. Confronting her history, questioning her current reality, needing to make these incredibly tough choices about her future.
Navigating love, safety, all of it.
And underpinning all this are the big themes: love, resilience, difficult choices, and crucially, that deep dive into breaking cycles of abuse.
All given extra weight by the author's personal inspiration.
So considering all that, what's the ultimate takeaway message the summary leaves us with? What's the core point of Lily's story?
The summary really crystallizes it. It says it's a story of strength and the courage it takes to break cycles of loss and choose a better path.
Strength and courage to break cycles and choose better.
That's the final note. It's not just about finding love. It's about finding the inner strength, the fortitude to say no more to harmful patterns, even when that choice is incredibly hard.
That really frames her journey as one of, self-preservation and empowerment, more than just romance.
It's about agency, isn't it?
Okay.
Recognizing harm, understanding where it comes from, maybe, and finding the power to say, this pattern, it ends with me.
Wow. Yeah. That's a powerful message. You can see why that would resonate.
Deeply resonant for many, I imagine.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive into It Ends With Us, using our summary source. We've got the essentials. Lily's drive for a different life.
Yep. The move to Boston.
The introduction of Ryle. The initial charm. The darker side emerging.
And Atlas, the past love tied to survival.
Leading to Lily's core conflict. That internal struggle forcing her to confront, question, and decide.
All exploring those powerful themes: love, resilience, hard choices, and especially breaking abusive cycles.
With that added layer of the author's personal connection, making it feel So authentic and heart-wrenching.
It's a story that, based on the summary, really goes there, doesn't shy away from the difficult realities, but ultimately seems to land on hope.
Hope and resilience.
Mhm.
Which makes you think, doesn't it? Why do stories like this capture so much attention? What's the draw?
Well, I think because the themes are so human, so relatable, even if the specifics are different for everyone.
Yeah, like the messiness of relationships, the way our past shadows are present.
Right, and just the sheer guts it takes sometimes to choose something different, something better for yourself, even when it's scary or painful.
Choosing well-being over maybe an easier but damaging path. Lots of people face versions of that.
It connects because it touches that nerve of resilience, the possibility of healing, and the fact that, yeah, choosing better often takes incredible courage. It validates how hard that choice can be.
And that final note from the summary, focusing on the strength and courage needed to break those cycles. It really makes you pause.
Hmm.
Like, what does it actually look like day to day? How does someone find that strength when they're right in the thick of a painful situation?
It brings up the idea of courage, not just as, some big heroic act, but maybe as this series of smaller, quieter choices. A daily determination, almost.
Yeah, choosing self-preservation, choosing a different future, even when it feels terrifying or goes against everything you've known.
What does that quiet, everyday courage really involve? It's definitely a powerful thought to sit with.
Absolutely. A lot packed into this story based on the summary, and definitely a lot to reflect on about how those themes play out in the real world.